Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and today we are graced with a familiar guest who was on the show a couple of years ago, Mr. Alex Boyd. He was on the show when he was running Revenue Zen. We were talking about organic growth, we were talking about LinkedIn, and he's one of those cool, calm, and collected players in the industry that very drawn towards, very easy to speak to. But a lot has happened since then, right, Alex? You've exited Revenue Zen, you've built a LinkedIn tool called Aware to over 1,000 paying users, and then you shut it down because LinkedIn always has a funny way of doing things. But then you started DemandBird. I'm actually using DemandBird. It's a social media management platform launched publicly in May. And through Wildfront, you've been investing and acquiring companies. I know a couple of them, Atticus, one of my good pals, Luke. And today I want to understand how you think, how you build, how the agency world is working, what is not. Alex, it is great to have you back. So for those that don't know who you are, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do it?
Such a great intro. Thanks, man. Um, I am an entrepreneur. I am currently doing mostly SaaS, but the the reason for doing the investments like you were talking about is getting to deploy my expertise, such as I have it with cool people and cash flowing and profitable companies, and just build essentially this sort of big tower of cash flow as best I can over the course of my career, and that's just fun for me. So um, that's why I'm doing it, hoping to leave a trail of goodness in my wake along the way, and just be real as I can, despite the temptation of social media to do the opposite. So yeah, here I am, and it's good to be here.
Awesome. So, in short, what do you think has changed the most since you were last on the show?
I mean, AI obviously is the big one. Um,
Yeah.
just kind of shook up a lot of the. I mean, you were talking about the agency world. It shook up the agency world in a big way. Um, because a lot of stuff that you used to at least be able to bill hours for better or worse, you may be able to, but you got pricing pressure, or people want you to do it with AI, but they don't want it to sound like AI. So you have this kind of like pressure from cost side and the sales side. And so some agencies are doing really well with that, and some are doing they're just getting crushed because they don't know how to sell anything but they're like, I bill for hours, I hire the people type of thing to do it. So they're just not catching on as quickly as they should. Others, they're just using it to save money on costs, and they're bringing their margins up. And so their margin has gone from 18 to 35% just because of being able to use AI, and everyone is more productive without really headcount going down. So that's great.
All right. So, let's talk about Revenue Zen because I think that was a very interesting move. So, you founded Revenue Zen in 2017. You ran it for almost 7 years, if I'm right. And then you sold it to Onfolio. What
Mhm.
made that the right time to exit?
Just personal. I mean, I was just growing kind of tired of that business model myself, I'd say.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't really have as much interest in a services model. And I think that
Mhm.
stemmed from the type of thing that a services model is can stress me out as the person I am. So I don't love the that delivery is based on people doing stuff that I have to kind of constantly watch over. Whereas with a software, if the code runs, then that is happening without anybody needing to do stuff. And so there's less of this sort of, I mean, really human variability in the way that people who pay us money get the delivery of what they paid for. And so that is much less stressful for me. It means I can do the type of work that I like doing best, which is I like to work in bursts and be on in
Mhm.
bursts and have like a baseline of off. And when you run an agency, you have to have a baseline of on because um, you're just gonna at any time maybe need to field a question from a client who's like, why isn't this done the way I want it to be done or whatever. So that's a very stressful way for me to live, and so it really wore on me for a while. And so I just thought, this is a good business. We've built a good business, and it needs to last. But someone else besides me should run it, because someone else who doesn't have that same response to the stress of it is a better fit to be running it and taking it over and so forth. So I always felt it'd be better as part of a larger agency too. So Onfolio is slowly making this kind of consolidation of their B2B agencies into one larger agency. And so I always thought that made more sense too. Just generally, like a larger agency is easier to run. It's less fragmented. You can have, one real CEO running things. Each member of the leadership team has more to do. You don't have to have, we had a really top heavy leadership team for a while, and that dragged down profits and it sometimes made more work and not less. So a lot of reasons why I think that was the right move, but primarily it was because I just like running product businesses more than I like running a services business.
I'm totally with you. So I think I told you I ran sales driven, which is appointment setting, probably one of the most annoying type of businesses that you could run. I ran appointment setting business for 3 years. Then I moved into a SaaS company, well, an AI company that was building voice AI for debt collection companies. And I saw the efficiency and the orders of magnitude and the way things can scale. It was very, very interesting for me. But then I realized very quickly what a product can actually bring in terms of problems when you don't have the right team executing. And for 2.5 years, I saw products sold, pitched, and never come to fruition, never go into an environment. And
Wow.
that became really, really horrible for me to be part of. And that's why I ended up leaving that SaaS company and thought, how can I build something for the SaaS space that is a product business and I could scale to one of these multi-million-dollar exits? And I quickly found out that the problem I was looking to solve was not working in the SaaS companies. It wasn't relevant. It was just another piece of software, another piece of kit. And when I brought it to agencies, though, to your point, the biggest issue around the agency space that I saw was this element of subjectivity. So we do a bunch of work over a whole month, and then we come to a call with the client, and whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. Whether we're good or bad, we're always coming into this conversation where just so happens to be a disagreement of opinions or a difference of opinions, and there's no way to really show or prove that other than it's either I'm right or you're right, but we
Yeah.
both can't be right, and that was a problem I wanted to eradicate, and that's why I find it really, really amusing that you say the same thing, and that's what RevIntel became, which was that kind of conduit, that infrastructure layer between agency and client to remove that subjectivity. I want to go back though a little bit to when you shut down Aware in August 2025. I was a user of that platform. A month later, I left Mega and I had just taken on the platform and it was doing so well. I'd shut down other platforms that we were using. And I was like, why is he doing this right now? And I said, there has to be a good reason. If Alex
Yeah.
is doing something like this, there has to be, and I saw it. But then you co-founded DemandBird in November of 2025, which is super duper quick. What did you see that made you go again so quickly?
Um, Well, so the date might actually be later on DemandBird. Maybe you got that from our LinkedIn profile. If so, that's on me. But I want to say DemandBird was maybe 8 months later, so it would have been kind of more like the
Okay,
spring of this year.
okay,
But I guess almost the question is probably why didn't we do something even quicker than we did? Which is probably because we were just so at that point like kind of shell shocked from having to just shut down a company in the space that we were like, oh, or let's just do other stuff for the time being. We did couple other very very small acquisitions, and we're growing some other SaaS products that we still own and are doing well. We just don't spend as much time on them. But it was everyone's feedback of just saying, just this kind of constant flow on social media of like, miss you guys, let us know when you build something else for social. And we were like, yeah. And then basically like one day we kind of looked at that commentary with fresh eyes and thought, actually, what can we do? Like if we just, build on all the sort of official platform APIs. And we had kind of a moment too where we were like, okay, let's start doing social for the other SaaS products. And then we started trying these other on the market tools, and we're like, actually, I don't love any of these. And then putting those two together was like, okay, actually, I think we can serve all this demand for people who really want to buy a social media tool specifically from us. And then especially agencies too, I felt like were really underserved by the current generation of tools because they mostly a lot of them cater to the individuals or the brands, not to the agencies, and so they kind of lack more than a basic like approval workflow for content to get out, things like that. So um, now here we are, and we clearly see the problem even more, which is, I mean, at this point, part of our issue is we need to just get approvals for more stuff from these big companies. So
Hmm.
unlike a SaaS where you can just build, we need to wait for, TikTok to tell us why this particular API endpoint doesn't have permissions yet, and this particular Instagram thing, they said, well, you can do this but not that, so we have to reapply for permissions. And so we're just in this game of like applying for permissions across the board. But the vision for what we want to solve is, there's like a little bit wrong with pretty much every social media tool. Most of them are overpriced as well. They're not packaged super well either, and they tend to have this internally we call it like kind of a slot machine design, where
Hmm.
it's like a lot of AI products do this too, where their goal is to sort of wow you with flashing lights and stuff rather than
Yeah.
making it like enjoyable to use. And so we conceived of this sort of design system in UX that's more like, using paper than like going to the casino and ringing the thing. So that's a bit about how we're approaching it, but I think it's like a lot of different improvements from all sides versus the status quo, and so far people have responded super well to that. So
It's a
I'm pumped.
great platform. I love it. So I signed up for DemandBird a week ago. Very easy to use. Connected it up with Claude MCP right away, and my entire month right now is all scheduled. It's all pre-scheduled. Beautiful,
Love
sexy
that.
tool. I really and again. So I've now started to hire a few more people, but the whole point again is I've got this done, I've got this done, I've got this done. And yes, to your point, it's very hard to push out the right type of content that listens to your voice and listens to your brand. I think one thing that, just to your point, like selling the product on the show, but to your point, you have this element of the voice, like you've got the voice piece and you go very deep into your pillars and all kinds of areas. And lo and behold, my content is out right now, and I've chose to go with some of the picture content, and they
Cool.
are sexy as hell, right? And it looks really, really
Good.
sharp. So I'm really, really glad I'm using it.
That's
So
awesome.
it's really cool. So thank you. So DemandBird is a wild front portfolio product. You are building it while investing and operating other companies. How does that structure actually work day to day for you?
Most days I am primarily focused on DemandBird, and then the other projects are smaller. So View Export, maybe I'll spend like a one full day per month on, and then like another 1 or 2 hours per week. And then
Hmm.
we have a community of SaaS founders that we run, and I pretty much maybe I'll do like a few community DMs and stuff when I kind of want to say something that's more about the process of building SaaS than the
Hmm.
process of social media, which is
Hmm.
DemandBird's content marketing. And then we run the monthly calls, and there's 2 monthly calls. So like outside of that, there's not a whole lot to do. So it's pretty much just like a little bit of legal finagling to set up a new entity when we do that, but it's not that frequent. Finance is pretty well automated. We've got our Mercury APIs plugged into Claude, so I can kind of run overall finance analytics in a dashboard. It's not that big a deal. So there's not a whole lot going on with like the management of the portfolio. So it's like 85% DemandBird and then 15% a smattering of the rest of the stuff. So day to day, it's not that much. There are some days where I'll just like get a wild hair and I'll want to do different stuff, and so I'll do like
Hmm.
one update to 4 products or something. Um, but that's just if I mentally feel like doing many things versus one thing, and it lets me respond to that urge, like I want to do different stuff, and I can do that versus I want to do one thing for 3 hours. I can do that too.
So how do you kind of recommend other people? So I meet tons of people, and I don't know. I was taught really well, I was coached really well on freeing up space, freeing up time, being able to work on the business, not in the business. So what's your advice for investors slash founders in the same position? You've mentioned how you automate a number of things, but if you were to kind of streamline one sentence, how would you recommend a new investor slash founder free up their schedule so they can operate efficiently and effectively at scale?
Yeah, I mean, I would take the sort of general thesis you see on social media, which is like automate all the stuff, use AI for all the stuff, and I would break that up into two distinct pieces. And then we talked about one, you alluded to another one, which is kind of this distinction between front office automation and back office automation. So
Hmm.
with the front stuff, where it's like you are talking to the customer, you got to be pretty careful. Like you were mentioning, voice AIs and debt collection, right? I imagine you're going to be pretty careful with how you build that. That's a sensitive area as well. There's compliance restrictions. You got to be able to say certain things. What state are
Hmm.
you licensed in? Is an AI even licensable? It's just tricky to get right. And so there's
Yep.
a big prize if you do. But so the first distinction is anything back office where it's not customer communicating, or even like employee internal relationship building. Just go to town with AI and automation on that. So as much of the stuff where you are just kind of pushing buttons, turning dials, updating spreadsheets, you can put some foundational time into automating that stuff. Um, when it comes to the type of thing where you're communicating with customers, or the etiquette is that you are supposed to be building a relationship or sharing your own opinion, like social media, right? Your people are expecting not just to be informed, but to hear your opinion. Then
Hmm.
that's where like your opinion matters. And so this is your kind of spot to not automate, to sort of have it be a journaling practice, a practice of building your own thought process via the writing, and to not automate that part. But we can even further segment the front office into like communicating information and just drafting, and the expression of who you are and what you believe. So even a social media post or like front office stuff, like take documentation of code or help docs, that doesn't need to be, that's not really you, that's information. So if you're merely
Yeah.
conveying information, AI is great, and just use it as best you can, right? Like fine tune it, do all the stuff people talk about, to like skills, context, blah blah blah, to like the right models, caching, to low cost, fully get it done and out. So if you can mentally distinguish, like, is it front office or back office? If it's back, AI is great. If it's front, I need to figure out if this is information or opinion. And if it's information, again, go to town with AI. It's that front office opinion and relationship building that you kind of want to leave away from AI, and not like try to have that be something you automate or take off your plate. You want to keep that on your plate and take the rest of the stuff off. And there's still a ton of that non-customer facing, merely information generating or processing stuff that people have not automated yet. And so I think there's just an ocean of the world economy that can be, went to town on before we need to like automate all of our social media content for our personal brand, which is like, yeah, some of that, right? We have an MCP, obviously. Like, I think it's good to have a social media MCP, but not so that we can completely outsource our presence to robots. That's not the reason
Yeah.
for our MCP.
I think you're right, and I think you did a post. I think it was one week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I really saw that. I was preaching to the new starter today about how he's building his social media presence now. He's building his profile, and he mentioned something. What about commenting? And I said, let me just talk to you about one thing with commenting. You're supposed to be talking to these people as if you're trying to build a relationship with a customer. And mate, I never thought about that like that. I would just comment just to comment, like, "Hey, that's great," or "Great opinion." Other than that, Alex throws it out there, and it becomes really, really interesting when you change or kind of look at all this social media through a different lens. So I want to move on to where we are now, right? The market, agency, social, what's actually broken. And I'm really interested in hearing your views here. You've been an agency owner yourself. You've actually exited one, and now you're building tools for agencies and investing in them. When you look at how most agencies are operating, what is the thing that keeps standing out as broken?
It's just dependent per agency. Honestly, the biggest thing tends to still be the leadership component of it. But I think it's leadership in light of AI. A lot of people don't know how to lead with these changes because, um, if you think about the position of an agency owner, where they have, let's just say, 20 people, they're doing, I don't know, 5 million a year or so, um, and they now sort of see that some people in their team really want to use AI, really want to use all this new technology, and some people are scared of it and are actively against it. You have kind of like internal divisiveness, and you as the
Hmm.
owner are like, but both the pros and the cons, everyone could be doing better if they used some of these tools selectively. And you kind of have to wonder to yourself, like, who can I get on board? Who seems like they're irrevocably not going to get on board? And then if you're, again, like irreconcilably not going to get on board with AI, you should probably think about like transitioning those people out. If they're like actively sabotaging the firm's use of it, you should probably think about transitioning those people out, because that's just, that toxic attitude could be, what was applied to pretty much any new innovation in history. And so there's always people who in the beginning are just sort of raging to not use it. And so that kind of attitude starts to infect, and you start to think, well, we don't actually need as many people. I think all of our current people are good and have good potential. But I need to kind of lead in this ambiguous environment where we know we could grow margins. We know we don't need as many people. I would love to just grow with our current people and grow revenue and not let anyone go. But if there's some people who won't ever get on board with using this, then we have to kind of transition out, but in a mindful way where we're sort of just being respectful and honoring the time that they served with us. And so there's a lot of ambiguity around, I think, the adoption of AI as you lead an agency. Sure, there's like tactical stuff of, I think a lot of agencies are undisciplined on costs. They don't look hard enough at these things, are too busy serving clients themselves as the owners and not working enough on the operations of the business. But probably the most pertinent thing is like leadership of the agency with respect to the firm and the team's use of AI. And the other stuff is kind of derivative of that, because your biggest cost savings, your biggest margins improvements will come from knowing how to lead as it pertains to AI. And then the other stuff of like, do we need these other tools that we're spending on? That's a derivative question of what's our fundamental AI policy and how is our team using it. So yeah, that's just a start. There's plenty of other issues with agencies today that have been lasting for a while, but that's a big one.
I think it's a big one too. It's very interesting you point that out. So let me ask you this. Where you have an agency that is, let's say, in the $5 to $10 million range, I've spoken to, so RevIntel is designed for agency owners that are booking meetings, setting meetings. And I spoke to an agency owner the other day, and he said he wants to go from 117 to 300 people. And I said, really, why? So I see agencies as reducing the amount of headcount versus increasing the amount of headcount. What's your opinion on that? I'm sure there's nuance to it and reasons for and against, but what's your opinion on more headcount or less headcount in the age of AI for an agency specifically?
Well, I think the AI multiplier has an effect on revenue per employee, or like revenue capacity per employee. So, in theory, if that guy wants to grow his agency by 100 people, he now is saying, I don't just need 100 times 200K. I'm going to get 100 times 350K of revenue. And if so, great. But like the math is such that you need fewer people. It doesn't mean you don't need to hire, that you don't need people. It just means you need fewer per unit of revenue managed. Yeah. And so if you're, if it's a 50 to maybe even 70% capacity improvement per employee, at least for now, then you need fewer people. So you still hire, but it just means that that guy is making an even more ambitious claim about how much revenue he'll close, which fine. That's good if you are going to do that. But it means you need fewer people to for the same amount of new sales coming in than you did before.
I think the guy was crazy when he said it. So let's go on to the one piece around demand. We touched on it a little bit, but one of DemandBird's stated position is that AI should handle back office tasks, and I've seen it myself now. The reformatting, the repurposing, the analytics, but not to generate brand content. So just diving a little bit deeper into that, why does that actually matter?
Well, it goes back to the distinction between information and opinion. So if you're just announcing a new product feature, I actually think AI can do that. That's fine. If you are the CEO posting about your point of view on what it has felt like to grow the company, AI should have a more limited role in that, the generation of that post. So I'm actually not philosophically against AI creating the content, because if you sort of think about this as a thought experiment, and you drill down a sentence of text destined for social media. It is the same sentence using the same characters in whatever language you are typing in, whether you have physically done this with your two hands or whether a language model has generated that text. It's still the same text. So philosophically, it's the same exact thing. What matters again is do you stand by it, and does it represent your real opinion if it's supposed to be something that is your opinion or lived experience? And so if it's not, then that doesn't apply. So if it's brand content of like, if you are selling subscription boxes for Alaskan crab to a consumer audience, you can use AI for that, I think. I mean, humans should be overseeing it, but like that's not the type of thing where it needs to be about the lived experiences of an executive, right? Whereas in B2B, if you're doing thought leadership or ghostwriting, that's something where if AI is making up a story about your career, then that's bad because you didn't do that. You didn't have that experience. So when I say AI is good at repurposing, it's almost universally good at that. If it's good at reformatting, almost universally good at that. Good at generating, that's just more complicated. We have to ask ourselves, what type of content is this? What is where is it supposed to live? What is the reader expecting? Are they expecting it to be information, entertainment, or are they expecting it to be my unique lived experience? And if it is, I can still use AI, but I have to make sure it matches, it's true to my own experience. So I guess your question it just becomes more complicated as you get closer to generating. You have to be more careful with what is the context? Where will this live? What's the reception going to be? And then if you've done all that and you're a practiced writer, you might just reason that it's faster to write it yourself. I mean, it's a post. It's not going to take that long. It's probably a few minutes if you are in practice of writing. So the people who spend 5 Claude Fable 5 prompts taking 2 minutes each, I mean, if you set a timer, like I could probably beat you on writing that post if you used AI. I mean, the general used AI, right? And like you used a bunch of prompts to edit it, and I just wrote it. I'd probably win that time race. And so I don't know if you're saving time, especially not saving costs, because my brain runs on a lot less compute than AI's brain. So there's kind of this like, at the end of the day, does it really help you in those cases where you're writing a short piece that really should be you? How much do you want to use AI for that? So it's to this distinction that I keep coming back to, where know what you're producing and the format of it. Again, these like purely information conveying. Is it help docs? Is it an image? Is it a promo? Is it a Black Friday special? Yeah, whatever. Who cares? Use AI. Is it like you journaling in public for a B2B thought leadership business purpose? Don't bother. Just write it yourself. Like mostly, I would urge people to do so. If you're taking your current opinions and rewriting those, great. AI can do that because it's already your current opinions and experiences. But that's the underlying philosophical thing we need to grasp. And once we really understand that, all the other questions about should I use AI or not kind of fall into place, I think.
So I want to talk about what social media actually does for B2B businesses. You hear Gary Vee, you've got all kinds of influencers in the space. They're talking about how important it is to be in front of the camera, be on social media. This is where people are going to find you. And you are notorious for generating millions of revenue, even for Revenue Zen from LinkedIn. What do most B2B agencies get wrong about how social media actually turns into pipeline?
Probably that like just taking Gary Vee at his face and or face value rather, and calling it a day, and not really thinking more deeply about the full cycle of your social media presence and its impact on others. So it's not just step 1, post on social media, blah blah blah, something happens in the middle, question mark, step 3, profit. Like what happens in the middle? Like how does it translate to profit? And okay, well, first you have to make sure that if you post something, it's gonna reach people. Yeah. Well, even that is a tough question in itself. Like, how are you going to reach the right people who have budget and want to do business with you over time? That's a whole podcast episode just on that one thing of like, how do you get reach? Yeah. Assuming you do, it has to reach them in a way where they think eventually this person whose stuff I'm reading runs a company that can solve my problem in a uniquely beneficial way. And that's a strategy problem. That's like, are you creating the right content in the right way that it emphasizes your client results and is them focused, but also sort of mentions you as well, supporting character. There's all this stuff around how do you get your content, if it reaches them, to have the effect you want, which is to think that guy or that woman can solve my problem with their agency. And then you need to be likable and reachable enough and responsive enough to your actual inbox, that if they reach out, you get back to them in a timely way, and your process for selling is good too, and it sort of picks up where your social media presence left off. So there's a bunch of steps in between. Number one, I post, and number three, profit comes out. But that stuff in the middle is super important. Are you reaching them? Is it going to have the right effect? When they do reach out, are you ready for it? Do you have the right expectations about how long it'll take? All the stuff plays into it, and it's got to be really coherent. And none of that stuff is obvious. It just comes with a lot of experience of doing agency sales for a long time with social media as the source. If you haven't done it, you might just think, I posted a couple times and I didn't get any leads. This isn't worth it. And you're like, well, did you do it right? Did you reach people? Did you reach them in such a way that it made sense? Did they see it enough times where they really built enough trust? No, no, and no. So keep doing it and refine it. It's like any approach. It just needs practice and it to be done the right way. I mean, I've run ads that have been a terrible waste of money, and that's probably because I don't know how to run ads very well. But some other guy who knows ads really well is like, just do it like this, this, and this, and you'll make a bunch of money. And I would say, that's great. I didn't know how to do it like that. I just ran 2 campaigns and didn't get anything. It's the same thing with social. So yes, everything works. Any channel works if done well and all the right stuff. So it's the devil's in the details with time, budget, investment, refinement, strategy, all that stuff.
I'm interested in hearing your opinion about this. So I used to go toe to toe with the founders of this company about their social media presence. And there was this element of personal versus business focused content. And what I saw was in the beginning, we were posting a lot about the company and getting attraction and building familiarity through the partnerships that we were getting. And that turned out to be quite good. But then I saw that some posts were really, really cringe, and like the founder was posting about his dog, or he'd post about, I'm at the airport, or I'm now having coffee at a 5 a.m. flight. And they would be repeated. They would recycle these posts a lot in those obviously different times and dates. And then when those posts would get like really, really good engagement and really good feedback. And then when they would post about the business, it would be crickets. And I was always curious to find out, and I even see it, my personal posts about me going to the gym with my wife and having a personal routine with her on improving our relationship works 10 times better than saying agencies are losing proof and losing millions of dollars because they can't prove this. So what's kind of your feedback on personal versus business? Why does a personal post get so much more engagement? Why does LinkedIn push it? So from what I see, why do those two kind of similarities become so different, actually, when you're posting? Like, what do you see there?
I think it has to do with our collective frustration with brands and corporations. There's nothing wrong with a brand or corporation, but the fact that we've made a collective company a person, we all know that doesn't align with our brain's hardwiring of how we interact with others. Because we know that, like, if I want to, if something is not going well, I want to approach, who am I going to talk to fix this? That's how we've always operated. So take that to the brand approach. The brand says, we will solve your problem. We will generate you 100 leads. We will fix your back office. We will, whatever the promise is. It's tough with a brand promise from a company that isn't super widely known, because if it's Coca-Cola, we know the brand promise. We've had Coca-Cola, the stakes have been low, everyone's tried it, so there's no need that's obvious. A B2B brand, you're more relatively unknown. You're not a household name, and we're not hardwired to understand brand promises that easily. We want to understand the promises that people make, because we know that a person fundamentally is made of skin and bone and has something to lose. Like, at the end of the day, I think it comes back to the the person doesn't want to be done violence against, which sounds weird, but if you think about it, like there's a trail from violence against someone to the brand promise. People make bad promises and the FTC throws them in jail, and their personal self is done violence to. They get thrown in jail. And so we want to know that there's a person behind the brand, someone who we go to for these claims that are being made. And so when the person makes these claims, we get to know the person, and we think that's the guy where, or whoever it is. If something goes wrong or something goes right, that's the person we're ultimately doing business with. So with Revenues and with my agency, I put myself out there because I want people to know I'm the one accountable for this. If you do business with our brand, I may not be the one delivering the work, but I'm accountable. And I think that give people a lot of comfort, because me being public and publicly available and responsive and to some extent professionally selectively vulnerable, it gave people confidence to say, I can go to Alex. All right, let's give it a try, because I know if something goes wrong and the brand's promise doesn't deliver, I can go to Alex. And they would. Yep. If something did go wrong, they did.
Yep.
And if it was no personal presence, they'd be like, I don't know who I can go to if something goes wrong. I'm suspicious, I'm skeptical. It's just a logo. I can't call a logo and say your team's not delivering. So give people the confidence that you, the person, are accountable for something. It doesn't mean you have to be running the agencies all yourself. It doesn't mean you have to change anything, except that you will take their call if something goes wrong, which presumably you do anyway. Just say that in public, and it goes a long way if you do it right. And that's why people want to see, who is Shane? Is he the type of person that works on his relationship with his wife at the gym? That tells me something about him more than if he just said, I'm the CEO of whatever. That doesn't tell me who you are. It doesn't tell me about your character. And if I'm going to do business with your company, I want to know your character, because again, call you, something goes wrong. And I think in the old days, it wasn't call you. It was like, I go to your house to collect on my debt if something goes wrong. And so we're still tracking back to that like day where there wasn't a corporation, there was a partnership, and the partners were personally liable. And I don't think we need to go back to that, but like, think of yourself as a general partner, personally liable in some way, and your social media will do better and you'll get more leads from it. And just like watch how that transition happens, because the hardwiring of our brains does not change nearly as fast as the technology changes. We're still operating with Homo sapiens hardware in the age of AI and social media, but I think we would all do well to remember that the brain has not caught up to this for good reason. We still build trust in the old way.
I agree. So let's touch on why DemandBird feels different. And that kind of is a good segue from that question into this. So the feedback on DemandBird from launch has been very, very positive, especially for a new tool in a crowded category. People are ditching Buffer. They're ditching Taplio. They're migrating their clients over. What is it that you did differently in how you built this tool from the rest?
Well, I mean, there's one kind of distinction that is sort of more obvious before you even get into the competitive differences, and that's we're building on the platform's official APIs. So there's kind of an immediate trade-off there. The platforms, the companies that are building outside of the official APIs, they have more power. Their products can often do more, but they're usually less stable and they might have to shut down. And so we just said, we're not going to take that risk. We're going to just do this 100% compliant, because that's we see now that like enforcement is very clear, it's stepped up in all these ways. And so great, we're just going to play inside those lines. So there's this kind of class of tools that is outside of the line, and then there's one inside. So we're saying we're going to be inside. And then, okay, now let's look at who else is inside. And it's usually these sort of overpriced legacy behemoths. You know, your Hootsuite's been around for 19 years, I think. Like, I mean, come on. They're in sort of margin optimization extraction mode. They do a lot, but like anytime a company is in this sort of margins extraction mode, they're going to charge as much as they can for, not as little as they can, but like for as little dev effort as it takes to get you to pay a bunch of money. Hootsuite has some very high-profile contracts with like some of the most divisive U.S. government agencies that are in the news for doing violence to people in the U.S. And so there's some big PR blowback on Hootsuite for that recently, which makes sense. And I mean, we were sort of talking internally like, hey, what if ICE came to us and offered us $2 million a year to surveil the public? And we were like, I don't think that'd be worth it. Not a chance, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's just no world where we want to take that money. I mean, how do you, it doesn't make sense to us. So there's just some choices that a large PE-backed or publicly traded company makes that we would not make. Again, going back to like us as people. So that's one. The fact that we're not in extraction mode means that we're charging, I'd say, much more appropriately. So people almost always pay a fraction to DemandBird of what they would pay to someone else. And we hope for a better quality of product because we're actively working on it. We can address feature requests super quickly. We've turned around features and fixes and so forth in hours, whereas a company that has like a bloated dev team really can't do that. And then the feeling of it, we don't want to have people feel that kind of like social media addiction feeling that they feel when they use our product. We want them to feel the opposite. We want them to feel more grounded, like this is kind of a sanctuary from the chaos that is, the actual platforms of Facebook and TikTok and just sort of the flashing lights. We want this to be the control room, the nice feeling sort of office with the mahogany chair and your nice book, rather than the sort of bling, bling, bling of notifications, new posts, scroll like that. We want to shut that out and just say, hey, you can just run this like a business and then it'll feel good to run and it'll cost appropriately. And if something goes wrong, you can talk to us. To our initial group of customers, that's been a really meaningful value proposition of like, whoa, I can pay a fifth the amount, talk to you guys, pay less to these people, and it feels good to use. Like, it's just obvious I'm in. So we want to do more of that and keep building our product faster and faster. With AI, we can do that. We're so much more efficient. I mean, we at engineering, we are 10 to 15 times faster at building than we were pre-AI. It is really mind-blowing on the sort of back office code and product side. It's amazing. And if I don't know if Sprout Social is using Claude Code, but it doesn't seem like it. And if they were, why would the product still look like that? If you have Claude Design, why wouldn't you use it? It looks like you haven't used it. Maybe you use it, So, I don't know. I feel that way about the UI of a lot of social media tools. Like, if you're not just trying to save money by not building the product, then why not keep building it? So we're in the office together every day. I mean, my co-founder's right over there, coding and building, and I'm marketing, and we're doing the thing. So I think our differentiator is across all those things. It's across pricing, UI, support, overall thesis, packaging, terms. There's like several different dimensions where we think we're different than the competition. We're still doing fundamentally the same thing. You can manage your social media or your client's social media with DemandBird, but across as many dimensions as you can think of, we're trying to push toward a better direction for the customer.
I agree. Now, one thing that I saw at a product company when I was there was every single call the founder went into, the customer had an opinion or feedback on this would be really cool if this platform did this. We're offering a voice AI platform. You put numbers in, you push go, it starts to dial, it's compliant, regulated, whatever. Now, one thing that kept happening was, let's build this on top of this. Let's build this on top of this. Let's build on top of this. And after 8 to 9 months, there were 100 features that were never, ever used. So you can imagine how, and this was like at the beginning of AI being really, really well used by development teams in this kind of era. You say you respond to feature requests and build with customers in mind. I've reached out to you many times and you've always answered me. But DemandBird also has a very clear product philosophy it will not compromise on. So how do you decide what to build and then what to leave out?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what I didn't mention in the first part was that we only build the feature request if we agree it's a good idea. And if we agree it's a good idea, well, we can build it very quickly. But we might just say, we don't think that aligns with what we're trying to build. And so it sounds like in the company you're referring to, there may not have been this strong, maybe like equity owning, like actual authoritative voice on the product side saying, no, I don't want to do that. And that's sort of I mean, I'm summarizing a longer conversation, but like if the CEO is the only one with any real power and everyone else answers to her, for example, then okay, you're gonna do what they say, and if no one's pushing back, then you're gonna have sprawl. Whereas if there's this healthy dynamic between business, sort of the customer side, and that would be cool, and the product side, do we really want to do that? Then that's, I think, what helps a ton. I mean, Mac and I will spend 2 hours huddled over the computer looking at the way, I mean, with the voice onboarding feature, we spent probably 4 weeks on that. And tons of decision making, tons of versions, tons of me being like, I just don't think people are going to want to use it this way. Like, I wouldn't use it this way. And Mac being like, well, I would, and I'm like this. And so it's the thinking about how it should be done and why that means so much. And the thing you were referring to with that would be cool, let's build it, that was happening even before AI. It's just faster than ever. And so that problem, if it exists, is going to compound faster than ever. So that you need more and more strong product or tech voice saying, like, just because you want it doesn't mean we should build it. And then even if you do, you could even have a process in the back end where you monitor feature usage in post-hog or whatever. And if the feature never gets used, you just pull it. And so we've pulled features from DemandBird. No one used it, we pulled it. No one missed it. So it just keeps the product simple over time if you just remove things that nobody's using. And you can even, with AI, you can build a mock-up, you can show it to people, you can get the research you need to refute the overzealous, let's build this person faster than ever, because I can mock up on Cloud Design a new feature, pitch it on LinkedIn. If it gets crickets, it can be like, look, it got crickets, we shouldn't build this. Versus that used to take months before, but now I can validate it kind of in a day. Based on like either like, oh, that's kind of cool, versus I need this, like I wouldn't pay more for that. Well, then maybe it's not worth it. So we can keep doing that process. But like you said, AI can make you better faster, or it can make you compound the scale problem of too many features faster as well. So you got to watch out.
I like that, and I saw it. So it's from night and day. I started to build that muscle of, oh, this is cool. This is said this. They said this. They said this, and then it was a very simple. Shane, here's the next. Tell me what it is that we want to do. Tell me what these clients are going to pay for, and here's the roadmap. Okay. And then I would go into some more clients, second, third, fourth client call. Hey, I think this, and it was just a simple thing. Shane, is just wanted you to show me where is that on this month's roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't there. So it's like for your own kind of accountability, you just shut up and then, okay, cool. And then you get a little bit of that focus in. And I think that's what companies have to do, or even leaders. They just have to be a bit more assertive and disciplined on, what makes sense for us today and what doesn't. So last two questions, given what you are seeing in the tools, in client behavior, in AI, where does the social media agency business end up in the next few years?
I think in serving a fundamentally similar use case. Like, it's odd that social media is actually one of the use cases that is not changing that much, because the platforms, the social media platforms themselves, understand that AI is here, but they have a big incentive to not allow it to be used to mass produce slop. I mean, not just because bad content shouldn't get engagement anyway, but if it, whether or not it was produced with AI, they have a responsibility to have social media be a place where people can kind of be social. And so you have a pretty big technology infrastructure incentive to prevent it from changing too fast in the light of AI. So I think the job of the social media agency, the job the customer needs and wants, isn't changing that much. The biggest change is going to be on how the agency operates with their back office, their use of AI, their choice of staffing, their level of leadership, their top heavy versus middle versus bottom heavy of staffing, their amount of spend, their AI policy, all those kind of internal things. I think this is kind of a time where, like, if you're a social media agency, keep doing what you're doing on the outside, and on the inside, make sure that is running as effectively as possible, because now's the time to kind of change slow on the front end of what you're serving and how you're serving, and maybe change faster internally for how you run the business financially, operationally.
I agree. And last question, an agency owner that's listening to this is doing okay, but they know something is off. What is the one thing they should actually change first?
Um, you can pretty much either decide you want to fix it and grow it, or you're ready to sell. So if you, I mean, you can sell pretty much any agency, but if it's just sort of off and you're not really sure why, and you don't really have a clear path to fixing it, and you don't feel like fixing it, you're just like, I don't know what's going wrong. It's kind of doesn't feel great, and I'm just honestly don't want to put in the effort to like make it really great. Then just sell for what you can sell for now, and then do something else. Because it's pretty common in agencies to have an off feeling and sell too late. And it's definitely good if you have the energy to invest in growing your agency and doing better again. But if you don't want to do that, then sell before your agency declines more, because then you won't be nearly as happy with your exit value, if anything at all. If you persist in this, it's not feeling really great, it's just sort of okay. I don't really want to fix it. Then your equity value will decline more than it is today. So I would just say, if that's what you're feeling, those are your choices. Ask yourself if you have the energy to make this thing great. Greater than it is. I don't mean like huge. I just mean, do you want to really put in some effort and sweat to fix it? If so, cool, go do that. If you don't, realize that, internalize it, and try to maximize the value of what you've built for somebody else and for yourself too. But don't persist in this sort of stagnant decline, don't really want to fix it, kind of writing it out. That's usually the worst outcome for everybody. Unless you, I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of where you'd want to do that is if you just don't feel like selling anyway, and you're sort of ready for retirement, your agency is so small, be a hassle, in which case, sure, run out the clock. But that's not most of us. I think most of us have that one or two choice, which is grow it, sell it, or don't.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that's a great way to end the show. So thank you very much for blessing us with your presence again. Alex, are there any lasting words? Also, where can people find you if they want to do more business with you?
Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's super fun to kind of explore some of these topics. Yeah, LinkedIn's a great place to find me. I think a good place to direct traffic is LinkedIn profile. I am more active on other socials now too, so I'm responsive on Substack, even Twitter. I'll look at YouTube comments as well. So just I'm more active on social overall these days, but I tend to spend the most time on LinkedIn still. So if you want to hear more about what we're doing, LinkedIn's a great place to do it.
Awesome. That's a great way to end the show. Thank you very much, my friend. Bye for now.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode and staying here the whole way through. If you like what you saw, click subscribe. It'll take you 2 seconds. It helps me reach amazing guests and deliver valuable content for you. And if you ever want to find out what we do as a business, go to www.gorevintel.com, and that is the place where we help you make decisions that are backed by intelligence, and it's for founder CEOs. That's it for me for now. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.